Hi everyone.
Hi guys.
Hello.
It's so lovely to have the wonderful Sarah McCartney back with us. We've not been together in the loft for a while. This is the first time, and we thought we should celebrate in style. It's been to about 200 years.
Yeah, it's been
so
a long
the wonderful Sarah's
time
with us. And today we wanted to talk to you about something very serious. The facts.
Not too serious. Well, yeah.
Not too serious, but we're doing a bit of myth busting today, I would say, between chemicals, naturals. What's the difference? Is one better than the other? Do we have misapprehensions about these things?
This is a kind of, we had the idea of this for a number of reasons. So I occasionally get direct messages on Instagram or through YouTube saying, hi guys, love your channel. Can you recommend me a great perfume with no chemicals in it? I don't like chemicals. And I used to reply to them, and I've now stopped replying. So I'm just going to give you an example of the kind of thing we're talking about. I just also want to say from the outset, this is not an all-natural perfume at all. In fact, the last perfume I bought was an all-natural perfume. We've talked about all-natural brands which we really like, particularly Hiram Green and Tian Reinhold. Really love the stuff. So it's not anti that. All we're trying to do is make a few things clear. And I mean, the main reason we wanted to see Sarah is because we wanted to have lunch with her. But we've also asked her to come along and just fact check us, because I think there's a danger of some misinformation and mistruths. So this is the kind of mistruth I'm talking about. So this is a quote from Petrochemical Free Living. So I googled petrochemicals, and they say, which fragrances are safe? Choosing products that are 100% natural is the only way to guarantee that harmful chemical ingredients won't be included in your perfume.
Does that make sense to you, Sarah?
So they're basically what they're saying. If you have all natural, so just essential oils, then you can avoid chemicals. So I thought this is a good point to include a formula of something which is jam-packed with chemicals. I'll put it up on the screen, but we'll look at this. So this is from the Good Scent Company, which is a great free online resource. It's got lots of formulas and just general information for geeking out. Look at all those chemicals, like amyl alcohol, a couple of that, benzyl benzoate, lots of that. Where's citronellol? There's probably quite a lot of there.
Bergamotine, caraphyllene, citronellol, citronellyl acetate, citronellyl formate, cymene, elamine, eudesmol.
Look at that's a really horrible one. Look, methyl 5-heptane 2,1. Look at that one. Look at propyl 1,8
dimethane.
That sounds horrible. That's really bad.
That's good stuff.
So that is something which is full of chemicals. If you probably saw there's a lot of citronellol in it, and there's probably a lot of geraniol. Where's geraniol? Yeah, there's quite a lot of geraniol. So if you know what those two things are, you might have guessed what this is. This is not a perfume. This is rose oil. This is rose otto oil.
A completely natural product.
There's no synthesis involved in this. This is nature. Nature is chemicals. I'm chemicals. All three of us here today are made of chemicals.
Yeah.
And the air that we breathe, and the church organ in front of us, and the glass behind us, and everything in the entire known universe. Chemicals.
Yeah. I mean, a rose is as natural as you can get, isn't it? A rose is the most beautiful, natural smelling thing. And you've seen from that list, it's a big list of chemicals. We're going to talk maybe a bit later about some natural isolates so that you can isolate some of these favourite bits of your rose, which are still natural. You can just have citronellol on its own or geraniol on its own as a natural isolate. Another reason I was prompted to do this, two more reasons in fact. One was watching some of Sarah's videos. So she's been publishing quite a lot of
we like long videos.
So if you want to have some further watching, hop over to her channel. She's done some video. There's one about synthetics and naturals in particular. There's also the magazine. If you want to, if you're bored of watching two fat blokes talk about perfume and you want to encounter some real perfume journalism, this is a wonderful magazine which they publish kind of quarterly, but they've also been doing some online articles about natural and synthetic perfume recently, with some interviews with natural perfumers, great natural perfumers. One of the best in our experience, Hiram Green. This is a quote from one of his experiences. In the United States, in a natural product store, they told me they didn't want to sell my perfumes because they contain linalool. It's a potential allergen. That's why I have a legal obligation to list it on my packaging. But it's naturally present in bergamot, lavender, and lots of other flowers. And among other things, this store sold lavender perfumes. That's just to say that approximate knowledge can be harmful.
Very true.
So this is an all-natural perfume, an all-natural store saying they wouldn't sell his perfume, his all-natural perfume, because it contained linalool. And linalool was on that list. I'm sure I won't
Yeah,
take
it was.
but it will have been on that list for Rose. It's a chemical.
Produced by plants.
Yeah. So we've got, as Hiram said, he had to declare this allergen. I've just got a random bottle of perfume, and if you've got any bottle of perfume at home, you will see
Can you see that there?
if we can kind of get the reflection there, you can see there's a list of allergens there. So it probably includes linalool, I imagine, as well as farnesol, eugenol, citronellol, coumarin, lots of other things which were also in this list of things which are present in a rose. The allergens, the things which give you allergic reactions, are present in nature.
Yeah.
Because essential oils weren't produced by nature to make humans smell lovely. They were produced to defend the plants against attack so that they could continue to the next generation of plant. So you'll get lots of quite, the strongest allergens in things that are made out of seeds and bark.
Oh. I did not know that.
When you're dealing with spices, because that's the seeds. The plant wants the seeds to survive. So it doesn't want little insects coming along chewing them to bits, or humans picking them up and grinding them up and making them into coffee.
Yeah.
It actually wants them to grow into the next generation of plants. So plants are defending themselves. They waft out these lovely aromas in order to attract insects. But,
Which we love.
to take a ton of roses and extract the smell out of it, it's not, strictly speaking, a natural thing to do. In nature, roses don't leap into the distillery.
It'd be much cheaper like that, though, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would be great.
Yeah.
Pick
But
themselves.
we do have a fundamental misunderstanding, don't we, of this? And I think in the past I've been guilty of thinking, oh well, the more naturals, the better the quality, even the better the smell. It will smell nicer if it's more naturals. And more I find that's not the case at all. And I mean, have you experienced this, Sarah, with customers and
Customers and also people
marketing
who are
stuff?
learning to make perfume. That's the point at which where people cross over into learning, and generally will turn up on the assumption that we're all going to use 100% naturals because it's a small company, and if you're handcrafting fragrances, surely you must want to make it 100% naturals. And so I try to be sort of kind, and if people say, oh, yours are 100% natural, aren't they? And I just say, oh no, that would be too dangerous. And then they say, really? Why? So I try to open the door, because sometimes the industry, just somebody says, is that 100% natural? The industry goes, don't be so stupid. And people retreat, hurt, and think, well, if you're going to be like that, I'm going to use essential oils. And so I think there are ways and ways, because it's complicated. It's chemistry and organic chemistry and biology, and
I think it is complicated. And if for laymen, like Joe and I, we look at something like a rose or a lavender or oud or even something like ambergris, we think we can kind of, to an extent, understand that, because we think this occurs naturally. It's a plant, it must be good, it smells good as a plant, it's going to be good. And so it's easy to understand. So whereas some of those long words we saw at the beginning, they look intimidating, and
Yes.
I mean, I can't remember what lots of them are, so I think, well, I'm gonna leave that. That's not for me. I don't understand it. So we kind of said that all natural is not necessarily safer. Is it? I mean, is it better? This was one of the other reasons Joe and I thought about doing this video is, as two of our recent videos, we had two new brands, which we'll name because we've done the videos. One was
lovely.
Katana, one was Freddie Albrighton. They were very different new brands. So Katana had some really, really incredible material.
The sandalwood was incredible,
Sandalwood was
wasn't it?
amazing,
Yeah.
and as soon as you smell it, you think, wow, this is special. Some amazing rose, some amazing oud. Some of them, we felt when we were smelling them that they didn't feel like they were quite complete. And some of those amazing materials, you kind of knew they were there, but you couldn't smell them, and you kind of thought, that's a bit of a shame. Then the other one, Freddie Albrighton, felt quite different. I'm going to guess that there's a large percentage of the formula was synthetic. I don't know for sure, but it was incredibly finely crafted.
Full of personality.
I wasn't always aware of notes. I was aware of accords and impressions and effects, and it actually kind of aroused kind of more memories and things. You know, it really kind of painted pictures.
Yeah.
And having done that, I kind of thought, what if you could have combined those two things? You could have taken these really expensive. I should say the Katana was about 5 times the price of Freddie Albrighton, more than that.
Yeah.
If you could have taken that, those materials, and maybe just some of those synthetics, just to round it off, not just round it off, bring it to life, give some of those flowers a bit more fizz and pizzazz and things. So when I say fizz and pizzazz and things, what
Technical terms of perfumery.
what I wanted to talk about was superpowers.
Yeah, which I think I have named some of them. Those things like we're talking about Hedione and Ambrox and Isoe Super even. The thing about smelling a rose, you go through a rose garden, or just down the street these days. At the moment, the roses are all out, and you stop, and they're amazing. But if you then, pick a ton of petals, and that will make a kilo of Rose Absolute, obviously you're losing something, because what you smell in the aroma, that's a gas, that's volatile organic compounds, that's a mixture of, in fact, it's not quite the same even as that GCMS report you have, it's more of a headspace analysis of a rose, but you can find out what's in the gas around a rose. If you then take the raw material that's been extracted, either distilled as an essential oil or as an absolute, using a different process, then you're going to lose a lot of that. So the natural doesn't smell as natural as the actual rose, and actually you can make them smell more natural if you add in judicious amounts of individual aroma chemicals, such as, for example, methyl dihydrojasminate, which its trade name is Hedione, and there's something about putting Hedione in which just opens up. It's as if the rose has blossomed, it's as if you've taken it out into the garden, it's as if it's come back to life. So weirdly, you need a single aroma chemical. It's not just Hedione, but Hedione is very, very popular and it's used widely because it's almost like waving your magic wand and swizzling it back to life again. You like your sparkly aldehydes.
Well, that's what and this is, I think, lots of these superpowers, I think, are difficult to understand. We've just been talking before, so I've been haphazardly buying some oils and things online and trying to understand how they work. And if you smell, I've got a Turkish Rose Absolute from Royalty, and it smells amazing. It smells absolutely beautiful. Other things like musks and aldehydes, musks don't smell of anything at all on their own. Aldehydes smell a bit weird and fatty and candly, not very nice. But I think, Sarah slightly disagrees, but aldehyde C12MNA, if you really dilute it down to 10% and put about 0.5% in your formula, it makes it go bing, and I don't think it smells of aldehydes.
Well, when I only pull faces because when I have to store it, I have it, and I will use it. And you're absolutely right, it's got to be tiny, tiny, tiny amounts. So, and I keep it wrapped in 2 different boxes inside 3 layers of plastic bags, so it doesn't make the entire place smell of
God, yeah,
that.
can you imagine?
But, so you've got some synthetics which hardly seem to smell at all. So when people encounter them, they say, well, what's the point of using it? It doesn't smell of anything. I can hardly smell Hedione myself. When somebody I know likes to wear it as a perfume, she loves it, but it doesn't really do much for me. But what it does something for is a blend which is a bit dense and solid, and sometimes when you put lots of naturals together, they can just go, they just go. It's like putting all the colours of paint on a painting and forgetting to leave some space for some light. So
100%, yeah.
Yeah, you want to put the light back in. But when you first encounter them by themselves, some synthetics can smell just like naturals. Some smell just amazingly, you can recognise them on their own, that's a lovely thing. Others smell way too intense, and you think, that will ruin my composition, but you dilute it down to 1%, put a tiny amount in.
Isobutyl smells absolutely disgusting on its own, I think.
Yeah, and yet I don't mind it because I'm used to it, and I know where it's going, I know it's going to take some.
It's weirdly vegetal, and like on its own it's horrible.
But you're not putting in the smell,
No,
are you?
but
You're putting in the behaviour.
That's the thing, and then you can get to know individual aroma chemicals who smell. The ones that hardly seem to smell anything, which are those the ones I think have secret superpowers, because they'll just come in and magically make everything go really nicely. And some of them you can use in big quantities. They don't change the aroma, they just enhance it, they grow it, they help things last longer, they help them spread across the room, they give them the potency that sometimes people want in perfumes, but they hardly smell at all. You can just believe they do that.
I think that's the thing, it's very easy to say that smells synthetic, that smells natural, and I think we all know what we mean. Even if it's not accurate.
It means, does it smell like a cleaning product that might burn my skin?
Yeah.
You see, people say, the late and lovely Laurence Roulier-White, who ran Roulier-White, he once said to me, I don't like things with chemicals in, and but Laurence, look at the list of materials on your own products, your Mrs. White's products.
Yeah.
And he said, well, yes, I don't mind molecules that perfumers use. I just don't like chemicals. And that's kind of, opened the door to, another kind of brain from mine, because I'm a nerd and he wasn't. And he meant, I don't want things that smell harsh. But then if you smell lime essential oil by
verbena,
itself, you would
I think
want it.
like verbena, like
lemongrass.
It makes me think like toilet cleaner and
100% natural. But people associate, and lots of chemicals don't smell at all, but people think of something chemically as basic cleaning fluid, I would say. Whichever country you come from, whichever cleaning fluids are used in your country, then people will think that that's what a chemical smells like. But even then, a tiny amount of geraniol smells a bit pongy by itself, I'd say. A bit harsh, but geraniol is in roses. In the company of all the other things, smells gorgeous. So it's a question of amount, of familiarity with them, but not just the aroma, not just individually. It's about what you do with them, what they do to the blend that you put them in. So,
I mean, that's the thing. I think a lot with things like musk or super or Hedione, it's not about wanting to, or even aldehydes, it's not about wanting to smell them, it's about giving some life and energy and lift and often bloom to those naturals. It's not wanting to have less of a natural smell, it's wanting to have more of the natural smell.
It's the performance and the behaviour, isn't it, of what you're using, rather than the smell.
You can waste your lovely expensive naturals by forgetting to put synthetics in my view. And I know that some people want to use just naturals because they want to use just naturals. And because we're almost brought up just equating natural equals better. We don't really define better. But I think all of us still have this kind of, but wouldn't it be nicer just to use naturals?
Does food have anything to do with that? Like, we're more and more encouraged with food look at the ingredients. Oh, it's so processed. It's got this. It's got this. It's got this. Does that play a part in that? Do you think people have a preconception that?
Oh, definitely.
Anything like that is toxic.
And also, there's a bit of a thing about pricing, and if you say something's very expensive, or if you say it's full of naturals, you can kind of justify putting the price up as well. So that comes into it, because humans tend to believe that something that's more expensive must be better.
Yeah.
So it's all tied up with this kind of belief of
fashion and trend. Like we spoke, so I was approached by a brand online, which we're not going to talk about in too much depth, except that they are an all-natural brand, which is very kind of popular and in vogue. And so I looked at some of their fragrances, and one of their fragrances included ambroxan, which was interesting because, to my understanding, ambroxan was not something which occurred naturally, so it must have been synthetically created. They replied saying, "Oh, actually, no, not all of our fragrances are 100% natural, but they do use green chemistry," which I understand is something, is kind of an umbrella term for most responsibly used chemical processes since about the 90s. It's quite a...
Yeah, I mean, that ambroxan, I can't speak, ambroxan, I only had a mocktail. Ambroxan, and it's similar chemicals with different brand names, that exists in nature and can be derived from ambergris. But nobody's going to say
no, no one's going to buy it.
It's already expensive enough. So it is also derived, but through too many processes to be able to actually name it natural, from either clary sage, which is already expensive. So if you're taking a bit out of clary sage, or a certain kind of beetle. So you'd be looking, but you see, it's probably more sustainable to use the beetles than it is to use.
But the problem is you've got a brand who are kind of playing on these two trends. All natural is a trend, but also people now like, I think I've heard of ambroxan. That's one of those cool hip things. A few people are using that. I've heard of, I suppose people. So they're almost playing on those two trends without, and there's obviously lying and misinformation.
Responsibility of telling the truth.
Yes,
they're trying to sail down the middle, aren't they? And I hope no one will notice.
I'm going to go back to Ne, the magazine, and another natural perfumer, Hiram Green. At the end of his interview, he's asked, in the meantime, what can we do? He says, I think we need more regulation. We need governments or the European Union to say what natural is. And I think that there is a danger, because people can blanket claim it is all natural without quantifying it.
But you see, the European Union has said what all natural is, but people just ignore it.
All right.
It's the number of steps it takes for it to be from a plant to the actual material, and it has to be few.
Okay.
But also, the European Union also said it's illegal to say on packaging free from SLS and free from parabens. But people still do it. So it's all very well making a law when nobody's actually going to go out and prosecute you for doing these things.
Yeah.
So because it's illegal to denigrate legal substances, and SLSs, sodium lauryl sulfate, which just makes bubbles, and parabens, which are preservatives, they are not illegal. They're restricted how much you can use, but still, so you're not allowed to say free from those things. But we've all seen cosmetics that say free from those things.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
The legislation exists, but the enforcement of the legislation does not exist.
I mean, and even an essential oil or an absolute or a CO2 extract has been through some form of chemical process. But also natural isolates. To go back to our big list of the things from a rose, so like eugenol, for instance, you could buy a synthetic eugenol, or you could buy an all-natural eugenol. Now, I don't see eugenol growing on a tree, but I do, because but so if that has been extracted from a clove, is that still natural? Is that still all natural if you use a natural isolate, or is it? I don't know.
Actually, I think the term natural perfumer is quite interesting as well, because I consider myself to be a natural perfumer. Of course, I naturally took to it. But you're a natural singer, you're a natural keyboard player. But it doesn't mean that. I mean, even the word natural or organic can mean that something has grown of its own accord without investment. Or it can mean that it's grown without pesticide. All of these words are used as defined by science, but they're also used just in common everyday language.
Yeah.
So, it's only natural. Just, it has this nice ring to it, which leads us.
We feel safer with it.
And we
don't
will, and I guarantee you 100%, in videos after this, we will spray something that goes, it's such a natural citrus opening. And we will definitely say that. And it's very easy to have that kind of instinct. But I do think it's more dangerous with, the quote I had at the beginning, which said, chemicals are going to kill you, don't have any perfume with chemicals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just dishonest, isn't it?
There's a thing that phytochemicals is the word to mean chemicals which grew in a plant recently. Because, petrochemicals are all made of trees. It's just that it was several million years ago. So you could count all petrochemicals as because it's fossilized. Oil is fossilized tree, but not recently. The green thing, or the clean thing, sort of talking about whether things are sustainable and do they leave the environment better than the way it was found. So there is one brand that looked into that and wanted to be all super clean, and actually ended up finding out that they should be using a lot more synthetics, aroma chemicals,
in order to do that.
Well, I think our next thing to talk about, there are ethical questions, which I know you talked about more in your video, but should we be using Mysore sandalwood in perfume which is distributed all across the world?
I would use sandalwood. Sorry, I was making a terrible joke. Mice or sandalwood.
Mice,
sorry, I'm sorry.
No, actually, that's what I heard. I had to catch up with that.
Sorry.
Mice.
Never use mice. Use sandalwood.
Indian
every time.
sandalwood.
Yeah, which is the best, apparently, isn't it?
Or vanilla, or oud, or or anything which is the source is environmentally in danger or culturally exploitative.
Yep. And
big question.
That's going to become more of a question, isn't it?
Yeah, it's becoming more and more of a question because we're looking closely at this. But then if somebody is walking into a chain store and buying perfume, you've got to say 99.5% of people who buy the perfume probably just go, "Ooh, that's a lovely bottle." I mean, I have people come into my studio who look at the collection of things that I have, and I think, they're my customers, and they completely understand that we're using brown board packaging for reasons that we want it to be recent, all the rest, and they still reach for the velvety, shiny thing with gold knobs on and go, "Ooh, isn't that lovely?"
It's difficult.
Or Swarovski crystals and all of that jazz, which doesn't affect the juice at all.
No, another one. But why are people afraid of chemistry? And I think it comes
complicated.
back to school. It's hard, and people remember chemistry as being something that was really difficult, that they didn't enjoy, and a rose should come off a bush. But I mean, I had a conversation it's on my other video, but with somebody once I've seen right opposite in a workshop, and I said that natural rose contains up to 600 different chemicals, and her face went, and I think, I see aromatherapists who are trained, aromatherapists are taught the chemistry, so they know. So it's not even aromatherapy versus, the aromatherapists know about the dangers and the safety and the chemistry. But this woman was just interested in lovely things. And I said, "You okay?" And she just said, "I thought rose was made of roses." And nobody really stops to think about, well, how does this thing just turn up out of the ground every year? What's it made of? And it's made of oxygen and carbon and hydrogen. Thank you, nature.
Yeah.
I think, it's difficult to understand chemistry, and what. I think we come back to the thing about little knowledge as well. There are a few fragrances which are very potent to the point of being obnoxious. Lots of people might say they're not obnoxious. That is that taste, and that we know that they're obnoxious because it's ambroxan or because it's High Super. And so we go, well, they're two chemicals, so we know that they are chemicals. So the chemicals are the thing which make perfume bad. I think it's
a misapprehension.
You probably choose two of the least obnoxious at that point. I'd say if you're going for amber X, maybe that.
But
yes.
but that is, I think that's the and I think we are kind of preaching to the choir a little bit here. But if again, that's that little bit of information thing.
Yeah, and also that people love a scare story. There's nothing dangerous in this. We'll never get a headline.
Yeah.
And there's oh my God, there's chemicals in your thingy. What can be dangerous is when people read an ingredients list and don't realise what all this is. Because actually the full list, so alcohol denat, which is denatured alcohol, they could have just put denatured in, there's plenty of space, but anyway. Water / aqua, so that's aqua, water, fine. Parfum, it says / fragrance. It's, we have the inky names, the international nomenclature. But actually, the parfum, the shortest bit, is where the secret formula is. The rest of it, the benzyl alcohol, the benzyl benzoate, the benzyl salicylate, the cinnamal alcohol, etc., down to linalool, it's unlikely, since this one cost you $14 or something, it's unlikely that they're from naturals, but they could be. All of these, yes, all of those in that particular list, they could have come from natural essential oils. And we just have to declare those on the list because they are skin sensitizers, potential skin sensitizers at levels which will not cause a new reaction, but if you are already allergic to any of these things, you better watch out. But people don't understand that.
Should we just, you can carry on.
Thank you.
Again, so but this isn't the list of, this isn't a formula list. It's not the list of ingredients. These are just the list of things which have to be declared because, sorry, I've really blocked your face.
That's all right.
Because they could do damage.
Yeah.
Not they will. They're very.
But some people might have.
To most people, they won't.
Some mild reaction.
Yeah. But if people is not that aware of that, and they keep spraying, and it could get more itchy. And you get people saying, "Oh, it's just a rash," but which is fine until it's your rash. When it's your rash, you really don't want it there. And perfumers would not deliberately set out to irritate, either mentally or physically, their own customers. But then you get people thinking, "Oh, well, if I'm going to make a perfume, should I be adding these in?" No, don't put extra in. That's the dangerous bit. But the reason it says parfum, and that's the secret formula, is because we have no intellectual property protection in perfumery.
Can I just stop here to say I did buy some Farnesol because I thought it comes up on the back of everything. I just want to buy it. Yeah.
Right, so what it smells like.
What even is that?
It's a kind of muguet lily
That's a
greeny.
good question. I don't own it by itself.
All right.
But it's in
Everything.
everything.
Yeah.
Yes. Almost every essential oil that you buy has got Farnesol listed on it, which is in your.
Yeah, it's on our pages.
I wonder, you were mentioning school earlier with chemistry, and it's part of the problem that as youngsters, you're often sort of, you put yourself in one of two camps. Either you're artistic or you're more academic, you're more into science, or, and the fact is that perfume, I think, I'm sure we all agree, perfume is art, but it is also science, it's also chemistry. Yeah. And actually the fact that they are distinct in so many people's mind makes it hard to reconcile.
Naturals are more romantic.
Yes, absolutely. Naturals are poetry. And I think a lot of people don't want to think of perfumery as science. They want to think of it as, olfactory poetry. And I was both. I was, musician, writer, science person at school. Everybody hated me. But except the teachers. But so I'm not scared of it, but I think a lot of people are really scared of those things.
But to carry on that kind of metaphor, for a musician, you need to spend thousands of hours playing scales to communicate art. And that's all gone in the background, and so you can do that. I mean... Yeah.
There's a lot of technique behind it, isn't there? That
people don't want to see the technique, people want to see the art.
Yeah.
Yep, they almost don't even want to know that you're reading it from some lines and dots. They want to think that it's actually just been transmitted from the ether. That's I've encountered the same thing in people who don't want to learn how to read music.
Yeah.
Because I used to think that music was actually paper with lines and dots on it. I thought that's because, have you forgotten your music? It's like, it meant you've forgotten the sheet of paper.
Yeah.
And it took me a while to realise that actually music exists without necessarily going through the medium of the paper with the dots on.
Yeah.
And I think there is this purest sort of natural, I just want to learn how to play. I don't want to interpret other people's dots and lines.
Absolutely.
And you maybe get that with, I don't want chemicals in my lovely things, but it's not rational.
Yeah. I mean, we were thinking of calling this video, is all natural perfume better than synthetic perfume? We decided not to because I thought it sounded a little bit kind of confrontational, and I don't think that's what we want to do, although I think the answer would be no. Good perfume is better than bad perfume.
Yeah.
I think that's what I say.
And regardless of cost as well, you know, there are cheap perfumes which are wonderful, and there are very expensive things full of.
We might do a video on this because I think this costs £12. Paul Sebastian Fine Cologne. It's beautiful, incredibly well composed perfume. It smells natural, although it's, you know, I assume it's 100% synthetic, but it's lovely. But one of our upcoming videos is on about an all-natural perfume brand, because that's the last bottle of perfume I buy. Nothing against all-natural perfume. I think we're just wary of misinformation, which is why we asked Sarah to help ensure that we didn't provide too much misinformation.
Yeah. But Sarah's been wonderful in terms of educating us about things as well, like IFRA. You know, for instance, we both thought once upon a time IFRA were the bogeymen, didn't we? And that, you know, they're decimating the great art again. It came down to the art. And actually, when you learn some facts about what goes on behind the scenes, it opens up a different side of things, doesn't it?
I think it's the same thing. It's a little bit of knowledge.
Yeah, knowledge is the key, but a little bit of knowledge, or like he says, what does he say? Sketchy knowledge.
Yeah, whatever the hiring
It's
group
quite a nice,
talk about this.
quite a nice thing.
So yeah, what did you say?
Approximate.
That's just to say that approximate knowledge can be harmful.
Yeah, and you know, IFRA is a really small organisation, although the membership is made up of tiny companies like mine and mega companies like Firmenich, but IFRA itself is really quite tiny. So there's lots of research, there's lots of information, and they're kind of most of the time doing battle with governments who are trying to ban things, and governments are open to lobbyists, particularly. I mean, some of the California legislation I saw before it was approved had statements in like those things like, we all know that perfume causes cancer, so let's ban it all. And you know, then unfortunately by the time I saw it had lines through, but it had gone into proposed legislation. Let's ban perfume because it causes cancer. And then so people like the RIFM, the Research Institute, they have to go and say, no, here are the papers that show this. That's actually not true. So if we're actually fighting on behalf of perfumers constantly against lobbyists and also the dermatologists, whose daily job is seeing people with skin that's in a really bad condition, and so they're just going, well, that's it, we want rid of perfume. Well, say a company is bought. So the company sets up, and it's an indie. Well, that's a whole other story, actually. Indies are going to think they're going to get bought, but tiny indies are just going to get copied. But a medium-sized company sets up, and then they get bought by a big one. The big company is going to look around and go, oh, okay, what, you used real jasmine absolute in there? I think some of that can come out.
Yeah.
So usually if reformulations occur, it's to do with either cost or popularity. If a perfume is brought out and it doesn't sell out within the year and it's just going to sit around in the warehouse, it has to go, and they'll bring out another one. And if somebody just goes, oh, well, it's IFRA, you know, then that's in four words.
They've got away with that.
Yeah.
It's not their fault.
Like, so that occurs. And it's so much easier. And it's like we say, scare stories are so much more fun, really, to get into. Oh my God, this horrible thing has happened. Let's tell everybody. Well, actually, no, nothing terrible has happened, but all this research happened, and this has occurred, and we've kept it.
The truth is far less interesting, isn't it?
People still think oat moss is banned.
Yeah.
And what's more, they think IFRA did it. It's like, it's not banned, and IFRA saved it.
Yeah.
But I know next week somebody will say, oh, oat moss is banned, isn't it? I'm just going to say, no,
Yeah.
it's not banned, and IFRA saved it again. As long as stay calm.
The IFRA level of oak moss is, I was surprised with how high it was actually.
And if you actually put 0.1% oak moss in your finished fragrance, it's practically all you can smell of
Yeah,
oak moss.
I mean, of the 100%.
Yeah, I mean, you don't need a lot of oak moss to go a long way. And all it had taken out of it was the things which caused the skin irritation. Atronol, chloroatronol. So they've gone.
There you go.
Cost cutting is being blamed is being levelled at IFRA a lot of the time, isn't it?
Right, is there anything else we want to say?
Just how awesome Sarah is.
Yeah.
And
Thank you
it's such a delight to
so
chat to
much.
you.
It's so nice to see.
You're very welcome.
It's a treat to be back in here, and it's a real treat to see. We missed our launch party of the Waft.
Yeah.
So it's great to be back in here. So thank you so much.
I was wearing it the other day. It's very good, even if I mean, obviously we're the choir here, but it is really wonderful.
Yeah, to come back in and smell it.
Yeah.
But do share your comments and thoughts. I'm sure lots of people have got lots of things to say. You may disagree with us. You may have your own stories. Share your opinions and keep the conversation going. But try and keep it factual. We might have said something wrong. I'm sure Sherry wouldn't, but I'm sure Jono might have. So yeah, do let us know and keep the conversation going.
Keep exploring.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go down the rabbit holes.
But until next time,
Bye.
happy sniffing.